Wow, we're coming up to a third volume. Pei Gimel already is going to be the third volume of the Art Scroll, and we're already looking to finishing Bava Metzia, which is absolutely amazing because Bava Metzia is one of the hardest Masechtas in Shas. If you could do this, you could do anything, mamish anything. People in this year already have under their belts Erevin and Yavamis, Yishalmi Shkolim, and now Bava Metzia, Shas is by your feet. There's no reason that you cannot finish Shas. Let's see. What do we have on the horizon? A hard Masechta that's coming up next year will be Shavuos. Shavuos is a little bit of a challenging Masechta, but before then, we have very exciting. We have Bava Basra, biggest Masechta in Shas, very fascinating Gemara. What's beautiful about Bava Basra is that there's small dafin. So even if there's some hard Gemaras, it's all small, so there's plenty of time to talk about it and explain it. And then we have coming up Sanhedrin. What a delish with Perik Chelik, 25 blot of Agadita. That's really what Marx ordered. And we have Makkahs coming up, so a lot of Geshmaka stuff on the horizon.
Marco's coming up. I better get my Ben Gay.
Oh yes, you'll need it, boy. I'm telling you, Marshall. I'm telling you, as you get older, you better go to the to the weight room because, whew. Now, okay, let's see. We put everything is on over here. Okay, we're starting at the very top of Daf Pei. Hasoicher es hapara. If Marshall rents a cow, lachroish bechar, to plow on a mountain. Now, mountain terrain is more rocky and more harsh on the team of oxen. V'charash bebeka, but Marshall rents it on the more level valley terrain. So im nishbara kankan. Kankan is it's called the coulter. It's the blade, a very expensive blade under the plow, under the team of oxen. So Marshall is potter because he didn't violate the terms of the rental. To the contrary, he did it in an easier place. However, if Abi told him he could only use it bebika, Abi said he could only use it on level valley, the charash bahar, and he plowed on a mountain, which is rocky terrain, and no good. Im nishbar akankan, then if the coulter breaks, chai. Now, lodush bekitnius, Abi is a glutton for punishment. He's still renting to Marshall. So lodush bekitnius, if he rented to Marshall the oxen to thresh with legumes. Legumes are very slippery. But Marshall rented it specifying for legumes. Vidash betfua, and Marshall did it with grain, which is less slippery, and the animal slips and hurts itself or dies, potter. However, if Abi says you're only allowed lodosh betfua, you're only allowed to thresh with grain, vidash bekinias, and Marshall disobeyed the contract and threshed with legumes, chayiv, then Marshall is chayiv, and kidneys mechalekes, because the kidney is more slippery, and he had no right to deviate from the contract. Now, let's say Marshall did not disobey the contract. And the coulter broke. Now, it's a process. In the plowing with the team of oxen, there's a guy that directs the oxen with a goad, and then there's a guy that actually holds the coulter. If the coulter broke, whose fault is it? So the Gemara says, if Marshall didn't deviate from the contract, man mishalim, who pays for the damage to the coulter? Amrapapa did not get pirsha mishalim, the one who is guiding with the axe goad. Excuse me, did not get pirsha mishalim, the one, right, the one that's guiding the animal. The one that's guiding the animal with the goad, because he didn't guide the animal right, it went into a ridge of rocks, and that's why the coulter broke. Rav Sheish B'rei Revidi, no, Dinakat Mana Mishalim. The one who is holding the kolter, he's the culprit. The Hilchasa, the law is Dinakat Mana Mishalim. The one that's holding the kolter is responsible. However, V'i Duchta the Malzika Gundere, if it's a place where there is an assumption of rock, so there the one who guides with the goat has to be extremely careful not to go into the rocks, and he knows about it, then Travayu Mishalman. Both are liable. They have to split the liability, the one who was holding the kolter and the one who was guiding it with the goat. Now, Marshall, look, he's the quintessential car salesman. And a different Gilgal, he was a cow salesman. Now he's a car salesman. But in a different Gilgal, it's the same shtick, different merchandise. So in a different Gilgal, then he was known as Marty. I don't know if Marshall knows this, but he was known as, he had a cow shop in Shnipashak. So Marty from Shnipashak. So Amoicha Pora L'Chaveiroi, Marty sells a cow to poor Dr. Block. V'amaloi, and he tells Dr. Block, Parazu, I'm telling you ahead of time, Dr. Block. Listen to the craftiness of Marty. Parazu, nakchonasi, it gores. Nashchonasi, it bites. Batonasi, it kicks. And raftzonasi, it lies down and smashes things. Now, Dr. Black wasn't born yesterday, and he takes it out for a test drive, and he sees that this cow doesn't gore, it doesn't bite, and it doesn't kick. So therefore he figures, it probably doesn't lie down on things also. But he didn't know Marty from Shnibashak. Really, it only lied down on things. But Marshall figured, I'll tell him it kicks and bites and it gores, and he'll see if it doesn't do those things, he'll buy it. He slipped it in. I'm telling you, Marshall, unbelievable. It only had one of these blemishes, v'sinfu bein amumim, and Marshall slipped it in amongst these other imaginary blemishes. So Dr. Black could say it's a mekach tais. Dr. Black could say he really fooled me. He really fooled me because I checked, I saw it didn't kick, it didn't gore, it didn't bite. He really fooled me. However, if he said mum zeh umum acha, if he said it kicks and it has another blemish, he didn't specify the other blemish. It says it kicks and it has another blemish. And Dr. Black didn't bother to check if it kicks, then ain't zeh mekach tais. That's not a mekach tais. If he told you it kicks, you got to check if it kicks. Tani nami hachi. Now this is going back much longer, when Marshall was Mike back in Rome, and he was he was a slave dealer. This is really going back. Mike the slave dealer near the Colosseum, and he sold to Dr. Black a maidservant. Va'amalai, and he said, Shivka zu shaiti, she's an imbecile. Nichbasi, she's an epileptic. Mishuamemesi, and she's has depression. V'haya babumacha, and another blemish. He said she's also a screamer. Now, the simfei bein amumim, and he slipped it in. But Dr. Black checked, she's not an epileptic, she's not depressive, and she's not an imbecile. So he didn't check if she was a screamer. How is that mekach tais? That's a mekach tais, because he just did it to fool him. But if he said mum zel mum acher, if she's an epileptic and another blemish, and Dr. Black didn't bother to check if she was an epileptic, then ain't a mekach tais. That's not a mekach tais. Now, what about if Marshall said she's an epileptic, depressed, she has depression, and she's an imbecile, and she is all those things? So what's the din then? If she has all these blemishes, Marshall was up front, Mike was up front, and therefore if Dr. Block accepted, he can't have any taina on Mike, the slave dealer. Now, the next Mishnah is a little tricky. There's a machloikas here between Abaye and Rava, how to learn this Mishnah. So let me give you a bit of a background first. A kur is 30 sa. A lesech is 15 sa. There's 6 kav to a sa. Right? So if there's 6 kav to a sa, then a kur there's 6 kav to a sa. So a lesech, a 30th of a lesech is 3 kav. So now, wheat is more heavy than barley. Wheat is more heavy than barley. If let's say that Shelley rents from Mark a donkey, and they specify in the contract that Shelley is going to transport wheat. So if Shelley says he's going to transport wheat, the normal load of the donkey is a lesech, 15 sa. So if he says he's going to transport wheat and he transports barley, then it's great, because the barley is even less than the wheat. So he's doing Mark a favor. But Shelley is an Iber Chacham. Shelley says, well, since I said I'm going to cart wheat, and wheat is heavier, I'll cart barley, and I'll add 3 kav. I'll have 3 kav. 3 kav actually is still less, a lesech and 3 kav of barley is still less than the weight of a lesech of wheat. So Shelley feels, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm doing Mark a favor. So according to Abaye's interpretation, if the animal dies, then Shelley is chayiv. Why is Shelley chayiv? Because bulk is the same as weight. And therefore, the bulk of a lesech of barley is equal to the bulk of a lesech of wheat. And bulk counts. And therefore, once he adds to that bulk 3 kav, that's too much, and if the animal dies, he's chayiv. That's the way Abaye learns the Mishnah. We'll see Rava doesn't learn that way. We'll see how Rava learns. But let's learn the Mishnah, because Rashi, when he learns the Mishnah, he learns it according to Abaye, which is the simpler way to learn the Mishnah. So let's see the Mishnah inside. Hasoicher es hakamar, Shelley rents a donkey, lahavi oleh achitin, to transport wheat, which he's allowed to transport on the donkey, a lesech of wheat. V'hevi oleh ha'sa'ayrin, and he brought on it instead barley, and he brought on the barley lesech plus 3 kav, chayiv. Similarly, tfuah, grain, Ve'eviola teven, straw which is lighter, but he added an extra 3 chayiv. Why? Mipnei she'hanefech, because equivalent bulk, kosher kamasi, is similar to equivalent weight. So you're only allowed to do the equivalent bulk. And then if you add 3 kwav extra, you're chayiv. However, lahavi lesach chitin ve'evi lesach siren, but if he made up to transport a lesach of wheat and he brought only a lesach of barley, which weighs less, and he didn't add an extra 3 kav, potter. But v'imoisef al masai, this is just according to Abai, this is just explaining the ratio. V'imoisef al masai, if he added to the weight, how much does he have to after the weight? V'kama yosef al masai v'yei chayiv. So Sumcha Zaymer Mishum Rameir, Sumcha says in the name of Rameir, a camel whose weight is a kur, then a 30 of it is a saw, if he adds a saw. Saw legamal, or shloisha kav, and 3 kav, as we've explained through the Mishnah, lechamar, for a donkey. So that's the way that we learn the Mishnah according to Abaya, and as the Gemara says, Itma Abaya Amar Kosher Kimasi Tanan. That when it says in the Mishnah that bulk is the same as weight. So the bulk of a lesech of barley, even though it weighs less, but it has the same bulk, it's equivalent to a bulk of a lesech of wheat, and therefore if he adds even 3 kav, Sheli is going to be chayiv. Rava Amar Rava says, no. Koshi limasi tanan. It's difficult for the weight. Now, first I'll tell you what that means in a minute, but first let's finish Abaya. Abaya Amar Kosher Kimase Tanan, Nifcha Ki Tikla. The bulk of a lesach of barley, even though it weighs less, is equivalent to the bulk of a lesach of wheat. And that's the limit. And therefore, if you add even 3 kav, a 30th, you're liable. The mice of shloisha kav and the chai. Now let me tell you how Rava learns. Rava learns different. Rava holds that if you put on barley less than the weight of the wheat, you're not going to be chayiv. So Shelley puts on even a lesech and 3 kav of barley. Since that's less than the weight of the wheat, he's not going to be chayiv. When is the barley equivalent to the weight of the wheat? That's if it's a lesech plus a saw. No, it's 6 kav. Then a lesech and 6 kav of barley is equivalent to the weight of the wheat. And there, since it's equivalent, and you have additional bulk, because the barley is additional bulk, that's when Sheli is going to be chayiv. So let's see that inside. Rava Amar Kosher L'Masli Tanan. It's difficult if it's the same weight. So if it's the same weight, that means you have, instead of a lesach of wheat, you have a lesach and 6 kav, a lesach and a saw of barley. Then if it's the same weight, and now you have the extra bulk of the barley, then you're chayiv. Tikla ki tikla. If the weight is the same, then v'nivcha v'teisefes, then the bulk, that the barley is more bulk, then that's an addition. So let's see how this works, the rest of the Mishnah works, according to Abaya and according to Rava. Let's see. But if you add to the weight of the barley, chayiv. So the Gemara says, my lav, it means even shloishes kaven. It means even 3 kav, which is mashma that way because that's how the Mishnah ends at the bottom of the Mishnah. So it's mashma like Abaya. Loisa. But v'alok ketani, It says at the end of the Mishnah, "V'kama Yosef al maso." How much do you have to add to the weight? Yechayiv simchas mishum rameh sal legamel a suffer a camel and shloisha kav lechamar. So you see, it's 3 kav, like Abaya says. So Rava will say no. Hachi kamer heichadolei shani chitin. Heichadolei shani, where Shelley didn't change. Chitin ve'hevi chitin, wheat, and he brought wheat, or sa'irin ve'hevi sa'irin. When is he going to chayiv if he adds? There, kama yosef al ma'asov yechayiv. There, it's 1/30th. Simchas aymer mishim rameh sa legamal, sa for a camel which carries a kur, which is 30 sa. That's a 30th, and shloisha kavin lechamar. So tashma lahavi lesach. If Mark stipulated with Shelley to bring a lesach, the heavy, and he brings, instead of bringing a lesach of wheat, he brings sheish esrei sa'irim. Instead of bringing 15 sa, he brought 16 sa. Oh, that's like Rava, who says he's only chayiv if he adds a sa. Chayiv. Hashloish is kavim if it's 3 kav butter. So that's a kash on Abaya. Says Gemara Tirgam Abaya. Abaya says, you know what kind of saw we're talking about? B'mechikta. We're talking about leveled saw. A leveled saw is less than the normal way of measuring out. The normal way of measuring out is with tefufin. Tefufin is that it's a little bit heaped. And therefore, 16 sa of mechikta is really 15 and a half sa of tefufin. So it's only really 3 kav extra, which is consistent with Abaya's pshat. Now, says the Gemara further, 2 lines from the top of Daf Pei Amid Beis. I really have to tell you, Aaron, we're having some kfitzas haderech. I don't know what Aaron did over here. I told my wife when I was saying Havdalah, I just finished giving an hour plus parak shir and then spoke by Shalashudas. I said, I'm a little winded for 2 long blocks. So my wife gave me a bracha. So maybe it's my wife's bracha. But Tan Rabbanan, let's see, who would be a good porter, a carter? All right, yeah, Marshall. Tan Rabbanan kav lekosef. The limit to load onto a porter is a kav. Adriv la reva, a small boat. Adriv is a new word, by the way. Adriv is equivalent to a lesach. Put that into your collection of words. It's a very interesting word. An adriv is the equivalent of a lesach. So adriv la reva, the limit is if Mel rents a small boat to Marshall, he could only put in 15 sa. Kur l'svina, a kur to a boat, and shleishes kurim, 3 kur leburni gedayla, to a big ship. Amamar kav lekasef. Now, wait a second. What are we saying? That if I put on Marshall more than a kav and he hurts himself, I'm liable? He's a big boy. If the load isn't good, let him stop. Let him say, I'm not budging. So the Gemara asks, if he can't handle it, bardasu. He's intelligent. He's intelligent. So lishtei, let him throw it off. Why should I be chayiv? It's talking about where he collapsed right away. He didn't have time to throw it off. Rava says, no, we're not talking about Marshall collapsing. We're talking about if he could ask for more wages. If I put on more than a kav, he could ask for more wages. Rav Ashi says no. It means for liability. We said liability. Why should I be liable? He's a bardas. If it was too much for him, he should have stopped. He should have unloaded. So Rashi says, no, I'm liable. Because he pushed on, because he figured he's just weak. After so many jobs, he's just weak. If he would have known that it was extra, then he would have stopped. He felt that he was just being seized by some weakness because he just did 6 jobs. Says the Gemara, kur l'svina, a kur per boat, shleishes kur in the bird and gedayla. 3 kur for a huge ship. Amram Papa Shmamina Stam Svinas, most of the big boats, Bas plus and Kurin, are able to hold 3 kur, that's 90 saw. Says Gemara, 9 nafkamina, l'mekach. Nafkamina is if I contract to rent from Marshall a boat, he has a big boat, he has to give me a boat that can handle 90 saw. Now, no Mishnah. By the way, we go further. I want to say from the beginning of the week already, I don't want to have to get a sponsor the last 10 minutes right before the shir. If anybody wants to sponsor Bahar, it's available. Bechukaisai is already taken by Philippe. Philippe Black is taking Bechukaisai. If somebody wants to sponsor Bahar, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, if things go as planned, I'm going to try to do a chok tomorrow night, a shorter chok, the last chok in Vayakel. It's not going to be so short because the Mishnayos is a very long parak in Torah, which is not simple, but the rest of the chok is simple. So that will be tomorrow night after the daf. We're looking for sponsors for the chokim as well. Now, says the new Mishnah, and after we finish the shir tonight, we will do the Mishnah Yomis, Baruch Hashem. All craftsmen are considered paid watchmen. That means that if I give Marshall my pickleball racket to fix, and somebody steals it or he loses it, he's chayav because he's considered a paid watchman. However, the kulin she'amar toler shulcha, if Marshall says, I finished, I rounded it out properly, put on good tape on the handle, it's done, pick it up, v'havei mois, and pay me, bring me the money. So from that point on, he's a shemechinam. He's an unpaid watchman. Now, look at this. Marshall Markets finally showing his face. Look at that. Unbelievable. After all his busy dealings tonight, when he was afraid to show his face, Mark, did you realize you weren't on screen?
I figured it's safe now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Black and blue mark can come out of the woodwork, right?
Now, if let's say I tell Mark, Shmurli, watch for me my pickleball racket, ve'eshmurlach, and then I'll watch for you your tennis racket. Shem Esachar. Then he's a Shem Esachar because he's getting something in return for watching my pickleball racket. Shmurli, but if I say to Mark, could you watch my pickleball racket? V'amalei hanach lefanai, leave it in front of me. Then he's only a shemechinam. Then he's a shemechinam. He's not paid for it. If it gets stolen or lost, he's not responsible. Now, very interesting. Hilveyu ala mashkin. I give Mark a loan of $10,000, and he gives me his Rolex watch as collateral. Oh, what am I on the Rolex watch? So the Mishnah says, Shomer Socher. I'm a Shomer Socher. Rabbi Yehuda says, it depends. Hilveyu mois, if I gave him a loan of money, then Shomer Chinam. then I'm only a shemachinam. Hilveo Paris, if I gave him a loan of fruit, since the fruit would have rotted, and I'm getting back fresh fruit, I'm a shemisachar on the security. We'll see, we'll talk more about this in the Gemara. Abishol says an interesting case. I give to an ani $1,000, and he gives me his snowblower as collateral. Now I know that this ani is going to have a very hard time paying up the $1,000. He might end up losing the snowblower. So even though he didn't give me permission, I could rent out the snowblower and deduct it from the money. Because I'm doing Hashavas Aveda. Now he's going to get back the snowblower. So it's seen inside. Even though I didn't get permission from Chatzkel, I could rent out his snowblower to deduct the rent from the debt. Why? It's like I'm returning him his snowblower, because otherwise he's going to end up defaulting on the loan, and then I'm going to keep the snowblower. Now, our Mishnah says that when Marshall is fixing my pickleball racket, he's a shomer sacher. Now, Marshall is trying to figure out why he should be a shomer sacher. I mean, I know he has my pickleball racket, but I'm paying him to fix it. Why should he be a shomer sacher? I'm not paying him to watch it. So the Gemara says, "Lema masnis in the like Rameir." Let's say our Mishnah is not like Rameir. The Tanya soicher, a renter. If Marshall is renting my snowblower, what's his status? If it gets stolen or lost, what's his status? Ketzad Misham. Rameir I'm a kashay mechina. Rameir says he's like a shemachina. He's paying me for the rental. Nobody's paying him to watch it. Rabbi Yehuda, I'm a kishay mesacher. So you see, Rameir doesn't say that a person should be shay mesacher. I'm not paying, just like I'm not, when he rents it, I'm not paying for him to watch it. So also when he's using my pickleball racket, I'm not paying for him to watch the pickleball racket. I'm paying him to fix it. So the Gemara says, no, afilu time Rameir. It could even be by Rameir. Because by the pickleball racket, the reason why he holds that Marshall is a shomer sacher, by he anod because shavik kulei alma, for the fact that I could have got many people to fix my pickleball racket. The agile Ledidei, and I hired him, so that's a favor to Marshall, and because of that favor, have a yilvei shemesach. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case too, we should say the same thing by rental. I could have gave my snowblower to anybody. And I rented it to Marshall, he should be Why don't we say that, Lamdas? You see, when I pay Marshall for fixing my pickleball racket, I don't pay him the normal wage, the normal hourly pay. I pay him extra for his specialist at knowing how to do the handle correctly, the right thickness, using the right tape. Right? So I up him from the normal schiris, from the normal hourly wage, have a yilvei shemesach. So Soichan Ami, the renter, also milai askinan the kamash v'lei tvei person. isn't it talking about that? Isn't it talking about in the case? Isn't it talking about even in the case where when he rents it, I give him a discount, because that's a lot of times the way you get somebody is giving him a discount, and for giving him that discount, shouldn't he be a Shema Sacher? Ella says to Gemara, Ella afilu tamer Rav Meir. The reason why Rav Meir says Marshall fixing my pickleball racket is different is because he gets the benefit. He doesn't have to run after the money. He says, you're not getting your pickleball back, Rabbi Weiss, until you pay me the money. And since he could use the pickleball racket to make me pay, with that benefit, he becomes a Shema Sacher. Elafilu Tamer Rav Meir, Bahia not the toughest layer igre. He could hold it to get the payment. He doesn't have to run after the money. He says, look, you want your money, you want your pickleball racket, you better pay me. Because of that, Havayalei Shema Sacher. Or the Gemara says, you're right. Since we want to learn our Mishnah like Rav Meir, because Stam Mishnah is Rav Meir, that's a rule in Shas, that Stam Mishnah is Rav Meir. So therefore, since we want to actually the reason is because Stim Ta is Rabbi Kiva. And since Rav Meir was a chief, we said that he taught 5 Talmidim in the south, and Rav Meir was the chief Talmud of Rabbi Kiva after he lost his 24,000 Talmidim. So therefore, we want to say that a Stam Mishnah, our Mishnah is an anonymous Mishnah like Rav Meir, we're going to switch around the earlier teaching by a Seicher. A renter, Kate said, Misham, Rav Meir, I'm a Shema Sacher. He's a Shema Sacher. So now it's consistent over here that also the craftsman is also a Shema Sacher, while Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Kishomer Chinam. Okay, wow. Good job. This week's share during the week is 8:40. 8:40 during the week as we creep up in our time during the week, and now we're going to learn the Mishnah Yomis.